Okay, you ready?
Richmond Lowdown. Here we are again, Don.
Yeah. Here. You know, I was thinking over the weekend.
That's always dangerous.
That's true. And it creates a lot of smoke in the house and stuff like that. But
yeah, I'm sure your insurance is really high.
That's true. And the fire alarms, I had to take all the batteries out of them. But anyway, I'm kind of toying with the idea of starting a super PAC.
A super PAC?
Yeah. And I think we should get the Richmond Lowdown super PAC going. And I'm sure that all the residents in our state would be interested in contributing to this. And what I'm talking about is I'm going to start a super PAC to draft Mike Pence as Donald Trump's vice presidential candidate. I think it's a win-win situation for Donald Trump, and certainly it's a win-win situation for the people of Indiana.
Tell me your thinking on that.
I'm thinking, one, we can saddle Trump with another idiot.
A complete idiot.
Right. So, all you need, you've got, hear no evil, speak no evil, and hear no evil. You just need one more to
one more evil.
round out.
I don't think we can take any more evils.
Just round out the crew. But these would be, and I look at the state of Indiana. Just think of the benefit of dumping this guy.
That I can see.
So, if nothing else, then we'll make it a single-focused issue that we ought to get the super PAC going, if nothing else, just to get rid of Mike Pence.
The thing that amazes me about him in his first 2 or 3 years of office, there were actually editorials, I think, in the Indianapolis Star about how little time he was spending actually in the state of Indiana. He was junketing all over the world.
Sounds like our mayor in Richmond.
Well, weren't they both? Didn't you tell me they were both radio personalities?
Yeah.
Now, if you're a personality, you're not quite a celebrity, and you're certainly not a star, are you?
Well, it depends on how many watts they're popping out at the station.
No, I'm trying to get.
If you can hear it like 8 blocks away, no.
I'm trying to get the hierarchy. There's like personality.
No, I've never. I can't remember living in
megastar.
Chicago with a radio DJ, ending up being the mayor of the city.
Well, we did get a guy with Alzheimer's who was, one of the most active people for McCarthy as president.
True. But thank God.
What qualifications did Ronald Reagan have other than reading cue cards?
But here is what you have to look at. The vice president isn't so important, and I think we should take just that as an example of why we need a good first person, whether that be a first lady or a first husband. And I think it was his last term that Nancy and the stargazer, or the palm reader that she had, or whatever it was, that was consulting with her every day as to how to run the country. Had we not had that, and Reagan along with her, trying to steer the ship as Ronnie was drilling over in the corner, what would have happened to us?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Hey, you remember the Prime Minister, after Margaret Thatcher, kind of a young guy. For some reason, my middle-aged brain's not retrieving his name. Conservative.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, but I can't
I can't think of his name either.
Shows you how important Great Britain is.
Yeah, well. Anyway, that guy whose name will pop up in my head about 20 minutes from now, he and his wife actually were into woo-woo too, and at one point in time went to some sort of outdoorsy, shamany, witchcrafty, astrology, the occult kind of
thing. Yeah.
Anyway, they were outside and they were naked and covered with mud.
Well, as any prime minister should be. Yeah. Here's the nice thing about Hillary.
She's not going to get naked and get covered.
No. Oh, God. Oh, geez, that's going to leave a scar in my brain.
Good thing you haven't had lunch.
Oh, anyway, we end up getting Bill, and we don't have to worry about the occult or astrology.
It's a twofer, right?
Well, Bill, all he has to do is call Ashley Madison, and
Who's Ashley Madison?
that's that big prostitution group that they had. That
This is not in my body of knowledge. It's just not. I mean, it may mean a lot to a lot of people.
Can you imagine Bill with nothing to do outside of just cruising in and out of the White House and limos and taking nice young ladies for a tour of Air Force One?
He can go meet people on the tarmac. He can waylay public officials.
Yeah. All right.
Just go for it.
All right. Listen, we are down to a family that has just been primed. They've been driven to get the White House. They don't care who they step on. They don't care what laws they break. They don't care about anything.
Ambition.
The Clintons and Bubba, if he wants to meet you on the tarmac, he just pulls over his plane next to yours. Hi, how are you? I don't want to talk to you about the investigation.
Let's talk about those grandkids.
Okay, so that's the crew we got on the Democratic side.
Yeah, they think that charm is not influence, not poor Bill. He always counted on his charm and charisma.
I don't want to forget the Republican side, because you've got the absolute craziest, batshit crazy guy that ever. I mean, here is a guy that has actually said in public that I know all the good words because I went to the Wharton School. I mean, followed on the heels of the Bushner, who was the decider.
The decider?
Yeah, he is the decider.
He decided between alcohol and lines of cocaine.
I mean, this country...
He didn't philanders. He was too bombed out of his mind.
You wonder why people are so angry in this country. If this is the best that these two parties have to offer... Yeah, I think we've finally reached the point at which the public has got to be suicidal. And I think this is what's going on in Britain. They don't have any jobs. Their middle class has disappeared. This is not unique to what's going on in America.
Well, Nigel, who kind of spearheaded that whole exit,
bowed out.
He's gone. I don't know where he's gone.
Holy shit! I created this mess, and it's
too much for me.
Do your duty. He was out of there.
Clean it up.
So we're on the verge. They were on the news this morning. They were talking about the time when there was the most upheaval in this country, and I would have said, stay tuned, because the Republican convention, they better have some tanks and armored vehicles standing by, because the white supremacists have announced that they're going to be there. The KKK, they're going to be there.
Yeah.
I'm sure that we're going to have some of the left-wing people that are going to show up at this thing.
You know what?
I hope they don't. But
I hope nobody who is liberal, left-wing, or even mildly sane thinks it's a good idea to go and protest the Republican convention.
I was in sales all of my life, and many times I would do sales meetings. I was a regional manager for this company, so I had 11 states. Anyway, so we would be doing sales meetings at our distributors, and as they would normally have them on a Friday afternoon. Instead of the guys knocking off early, they'd bring their salespeople in to hear guys like us.
Oh, I bet that really was
here
great.
We have this, and we're going to sell a lot of this stuff, and you're going to make a lot of money. And
Friday afternoon, right before the weekend.
And these guys their eyes were sort of glassed over and whatnot. And any questions? And they'd be out of the room.
I bet that doubled the martini martini load.
But here's the thing that I began to notice, and I think it's noteworthy for the Democrats that you might want to just listen to the wisdom of Uncle Donald. There were times that I would see guys say stuff that I would just cringe, and I would actually say to them, "Did you mean to say that?" and try to give them at least an arm out of the quicksand or something. And then I recognized at some point that these were my competitors, and the best thing that I could possibly do was just sort of stand back and watch them self-destruct in front of me.
You didn't help it along?
No, you didn't have to. These guys would be completely out of control, babbling on about whatever the hell it was, that these guys were ready to get a rope and lynch this guy. And sometimes discretion is the better part of valor, just to stand there and say, you're on your own. Good luck, pal, on what you're doing. And I think that's what the Democrats ought to do. The Republicans, they're going to have enough stuff going on at that convention that you don't need to be out there adding to it.
No, and I don't think you're prepared with enough steel-toed Doc Martens. Listen, grasshoppers, stay away from the Republican convention. They will self-destruct on their own.
Well, the Aryan Nation has announced that they want to come in armed.
Armed? Well, aren't they legally and constitutionally allowed to?
That Second Amendment right tells me that I can bring my gun anywhere. I'll take a shower with my gun on.
Your fully automatic weapon?
Well, you can't have a fully automatic. Well, I do.
You do?
But I don't tell people about it.
But you don't take it out.
See, I don't tell people. Like I just didn't tell you about it.
No.
You are surmising that I have one.
Surmising.
So here, I just look at the funding. I cannot wait to tune in every day to the Republican convention. I'm going to tell you how bad it is. I don't know if any of you ever watch Bill Maher, but here is some atheist left-winger who, is relatively intelligent. And he has a weekly show that he puts on and tries to get some Republicans and Democrats together and just rants on the Republicans all the time. And makes no bones about the fact that he's a left-winger. But he's actually going to be on every day during the Republican.
I hope he's going to be in a bulletproof booth.
Oh, that was another thing that they were talking about on the news, that they're actually giving classes to the news media for survival. We're going to have a room for you set aside so when the bullets start flying, 3 blasts of the horn and you all congregate and run into the
duck and cover. Maybe they all need those vehicles with the poke bubbles,
duck and cover.
Duck and cover.
You young people out there don't know what duck and cover means. So I'm going to explain that to you.
Oh, yeah, the trauma of our youth.
During the 60s.
50s.
Well, 50s and 60s.
Well, people should know how old we are.
As young people, we were told when we were in grammar school that when the nuclear bomb went off, that of course the safest place that you could be is to duck and get under your wooden desk.
Yeah, just crouch down. And we actually practiced that, just like we did fire drills and tornado drills.
They would have a siren going, and you'd have to get under your wooden desk and duck and cover as the 5,000-degree blast was going off. But you were going to be okay.
The good news is, we would, if it was anywhere close, and by close I mean 50 to 100 miles, we would have probably been incinerated in half a second.
Yeah, you wouldn't have been able to actually duck, let alone cover.
Not enough time.
And, with that in mind, I've called our State Department and asked them if they could possibly get a hold of Putin and actually target my house, wherever I live, so that when they do launch the nukes, I just don't want to go through nuclear winter, so I just rather be gone in an instant.
Yeah, that's not going to be for the weak and the old and the...
Yeah, it'd be nice to just in my backyard, and then you're gone.
Yeah. That really was a trauma for me when I was young.
It was trauma for everybody because you never knew. And then, of course, when Kennedy...
Oh, my gosh.
launched
the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Oh.
My father and my mother and brother, not so much, but my father and I stayed glued to that TV during all possible coverage of it. And I can remember that my little heart was, just beating 1,000 beats per second. I was terrified.
So if you kids out there today think that you've got such a life going for you, during the 60s, we were like a millisecond away. This went on for a week or 2 weeks, didn't it? 10 days, something like that?
It was yeah.
Where what we did is Russia had put some missiles into Cuba, or as Kennedy used to say, Cuba, and we didn't like that. So what we did is we got our ships out into the ocean and stopped all the Russian ships, and they said, if you do that, then we're going to, and then we said, well, if you do that, then we're going to, and everybody was sitting as Kennedy had his finger on the nuclear button for however long time it was. And, kids, you don't know what fear is when you're thinking at any moment there's going to be a flash of light and that's going to be the last day of your life. And they came close. So we had our planes had all been brought into Florida, and they had this SAC thing going on, and we had B-52s launched in the air, and we were at DEFCON 4, and it only went to DEFCON 5.
Yeah, DEFCON 5, it's over, guys.
And here we were thinking, you'd ask your parents, well, listen, if anything happens, we all got to meet at the school so we can get under a desk and be safe. And of course, your parents are looking at you like, what do you learn in school?
A lot of people actually built fallout shelters in their backyard.
Hey, they're coming back.
Really?
That's a big industry right now, is building, bomb shelters. And actually what they're building them for is the zombie apocalypse, where everybody's strung out on drugs and, they're going to go around neighborhoods killing everybody. And yeah, people are actually, and they store up. In fact, out of that came this Weiss Foods stuff that they've got where you can buy for $49.95 and have soup and some of the best food. If you listen to these people, they've got this freeze-dried food that you just add water to, and they say, it's just like eating in a restaurant.
Do you really think you're going to have water?
Oh, you got that put in.
In your bomb shelter?
Oh, you've got to have like 8 million cases of water.
Well, all I know is what my little granddaughter, she wanted some astronaut ice cream. Now, this is some freeze-dried ice cream that will last forever.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never forget the puckered onion face that she made when she actually tasted it. I don't think that product's so good now.
Those astronauts when they were going to the moon and stuff, it wasn't like getting a Big Mac,
But aren't we kind of digress? Well, we do digression really well.
That's what this show is all about.
Yeah. But I really did want to talk about the Regional Economic Development Group that the paper just announced today.
Well, if we must, because you know how much I love the EDC.
Well, I was asking you, and I'm still not totally convinced or clear, but you really think the EDC's gone and this replaces it?
Well, it appears to, but then again, this is Richmond. The question is going to be, really, what does our new mayor do? Where does he stick the hundreds of thousands of dollars that used to go into the EDC that Sally would donate to them every year to keep them going? Because we were the only ones at the end that was really supporting the EDC.
Well, everybody had dropped out. And yeah. I do want to read the one sentence that it's Richmond and Wayne County all over. When the former Eastern Indiana Development District disbanded in 2012, after an employee was convicted of stealing more than $100,000 from the organization.
In Richmond?
Never could happen.
Are you kidding me?
What actually surprises me is apparently this individual was convicted. How many times have money disappeared and been stolen?
How did that happen?
I don't know. Somebody must have been.
It must have put the fear of God into him, because then, of course, the EDC cranked up, and we were giving them $650,000 a year just from Richmond.
But, that organization disbanded in 2012, and that's not that many years ago. So I'm wondering whether the EDC really might be completely separate.
Well, they're doing such a bang-up job. I mean, the first real star that they have been able to bring in is a dog food company that's under indictment for killing dogs.
What?
Yeah, it's tainted food.
What company is that?
Blue Star or...
Oh gosh, that's what I feed my dog.
Well, kiss your dog goodbye. Now, there's a big recall going on about their food, that it contains, who the hell knows what dog food contains. Yeah, and, you know, all of this stuff, where's the other paper you had today?
The other paper, right here.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's some breaking news.
Of course, there's something kind of sad
Bulletin.
There's something kind of sad about the fact that we're actually going to the Palladium for information. But go on, I'm sorry.
Where better to go?
Yeah, where better.
I don't know if we had actually ranted about the fact, I'm assuming that we did because that's what we do, about the fact that the Democratic Party, rather than go out and actually seek people to join or, try to figure out what their platform is or try to field a slate of good candidates, rather than do that, their fearless leader has decided that it was more important to change the rules.
The rules.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The bylaws have to be changed to streamline it, and to make it more efficient, the chair who has written these rules is going to give himself the power to hire and fire and appoint and do all those things. In other words, he is going to become the king of the Democratic Party, and also will be able to sign checks and stuff like that. So you won't need precinct people, and you certainly, and they're doing this, by the way. They're doing all of this with 4 months to go before an election.
Not just any election, one of the most crucial in American history.
Yeah. And here in the very paper that I hold in my little fingers, it says no new candidates for election.
Okay, for people who vote and especially Democrats, or just pay attention to how the fact that the Republican slate is usually full, and most of the time they're running unopposed.
But the good side is, kiddies, that we're going to have a whole new set of bylaws.
Yeah.
Because that's important. That's like saying to, if you're sending your kid to school and they've hired a brand new teacher who has all the creds and is very young and just out of college, but has a brand new way of teaching kids how to read or write. And the first day of school, this wonderful, smart, young person gets up to the class and says, "Class, I know you've heard a lot about reading and writing, but before we do that, I'm going to reinvent a new alphabet." Imagine their dismay when they actually have to read something and it doesn't contain any of the letters of this person's new alphabet. I don't think that adds to the kids' education, but somehow or other, the Democrat guy that is doing this, what's his name?
Is it Alfred E. Newman? No.
I can't remember the guy's
Though I can actually see him, with his little rosy cheeks saying, "Want me worry."
Wait a minute. North
Dakota.
South, yeah, Dakota. Anyway, this guy has decided that rather fill up a room with new people in the Democratic Party and offer them some hope, because if ever this country was in turmoil, it is today.
He actually said, "I don't want 250 people here."
Yeah. Now, holy jeez, that's just mind-boggling. Here is a guy that doesn't want any new members to a party, that he doesn't want to put any new candidates up for election, that wants to take control and write checks.
They would be disappointed because only the precinct committee people can vote. Well, as I pointed out, maybe what you ought to do is send out an email to these 250, people who are supposedly Democrats, and invite them to come and let them know who the precinct committee people are, and say, if you have any questions or concerns, these are the only people who can actually vote, but let them know what you feel and think.
And especially at a Democratic meeting, they could learn about, what's that word I'm looking for? Democracy.
Yeah, well,
Not the oligarchy that we have going for us now. Yeah. When you watch what's going on with Brexit and what's going on in America and what's going on in politics, we're not unique in the world for having idiots that run for our government. You've got Parliament over in Britain, but what you do have in Britain is an entirely different type of...
Tony Blair.
Tony Blair.
20 minutes later, I told you, 20 minutes later.
Now I've lost my thought on what the hell I'm talking about now.
Brexit.
You have a whole new group of idiots in Britain doing the same stupid-ass things that politicians want to do here, which is nothing for the middle class, protecting the rich. I'm going to bring up something that Bill Maher said in his show, and I'm not espousing that this guy has the answer to anything, but he was talking about the difference between the Republicans and the Democrats as far as economic policies go. And it has been for years, ever since the Reagan years, and certainly Bush 1, that we have been fed this crap every year that trickle-down economics works. If you give enough money to rich people, they're going to hire poor people to do jobs. And it never has worked. It just never has worked. But what he did is he very skillfully put 3 states as an example of 2 different types of economic policies. One was Kansas, who the governor bankrupted using straight trickle-down economic policies. Their schools lost funding, their hospitals they were just so screwed. And now they don't know where to start to rebuild their economy. And the other one was Bobby Jindal, the current governor of Louisiana. And he did the same thing and bankrupted damn near. They have like a $200 million deficit. I forget what the exact figures was that he quoted, and then he said, if you look at California and the condition that we were in, especially with a guy like Arnold Schwarzenegger at the helm.
California was really near bankruptcy.
Oh yeah, they were dying. So what did they do? They turned the state over to a guy. How old is Jerry Brown? He's got to be like 106.
He's our age. He used to
106.
Date, Linda Ronstadt. They were a hot item.
This guy gets in, and what does the state of California do? They finally got off their butts, like someone has been trying to tell you people, and actually voted. And I'm not saying that the Democrats did it because they're Democrats. They actually voted people that wanted to make the state fiscally responsible. And for once, they decided, I wonder where the money is. And where the money is, that's the people we ought to tax. So they taxed the hell out of the rich. And 2 things happened. The rich didn't leave the state.
They didn't.
And the second thing that happened is, as of this month, California is the 5th largest economy in the world.
In the world?
So if you look at that and think to yourself, the next time some Nimrod comes to you and says that trickle-down economics is the way to go, you might want to pose that question as to, how'd that work for you in Kansas? And how'd that work for you in Louisiana?
I have an ancestor named Nimrod.
Really?
Yeah.
Somehow that didn't surprise me. You were going to say something.
Well, I know I'm going to regret this, but it's been a long time since we were our sister city. And you know what? It's like we're pushing 29 minutes right now.
So let's switch it over to them. Well, we got to go now. I'll tell you what we'll do, Doris. We're going to do an entire show, because I'm interested to see what happened to Franz Beaver.
Yeah. Well, but you know,
How that worked out for their tourism bureau.
yeah, that
And those of you that didn't listen to it, go
it's not,
back.
I don't even know if is it up yet. Is that episode up?
I don't know. I never listen to what the hell we talk about.
Oh,
But there is a whole program about their tourism. Anyway, yeah, we might want to spend an entire show next time down in Scum Hollow talking to those people in our sister city, because they have some pretty interesting things going on there all the time.
talk about trauma.
Yeah, they're just sort of middle rural America. You know, there's another thing that I just heard this morning. That some pundit. That's the other thing. Who are these people? You know, here's Diff Bongwanger, and he's going to come on here and talk about he is a credited economist, and he knows everything about the economy. And you never find out who the guy is or what his background is or anything. I'm telling you this right now, the entire world is going to go bankrupt in 3 weeks, and this is the way it's going to be. And then they have some other Nimrod come on, and he says, everything is beautiful, and he is renowned. There was a trial some time ago, and I always use this to my people who love psychologists and psychiatrists, and it's such a precise science. The guy's name was Jeffrey Dahmer, and what he did is he would lure young boys up to his apartment, and then he would kill them, and then he would eat them. And at the trial, what they wanted to do is the defense team wanted to prove that he was nuts, and the prosecutors wanted to say, he's not nuts, we need to kill this guy. So the prosecution puts on 3 credible, credited, well-known, not psychologists, actually doctors who were psychiatrists, that said, yes, Jeffrey Dahmer is completely sane. Mm-hmm. And he should be treated as though he's sane. Mm-hmm. And it is my professional opinion that he is sane. Mm-hmm. Therefore, he is sane. And the next day, the defense gets up and they bring on 3 equally noted, qualified psychiatrists who said, that man's crazy. He's crazy. You can't tell me that some guy kills people and eats them is sane. He is crazy. Now, here has always been my point. If they are doctors and their opinion is that far 180 degrees opposed to one another, which 3 ought to lose their license to practice?
Well, yeah, well, you know, pundit's an ugly word. I'm not, you know.
You know, we take everybody's word for everything as though it is the gospel. And all they are is a bunch of people that they've dragged onto the air to express their opinion.
You know what, though? It just occurred to me that I bet you everybody in the world knows who Jeffrey Dahmer is.
Yeah.
But I bet you half of the people probably in this country couldn't tell you who the vice president was. Only in America. No, unfortunately, it's not only in America. Well, Don?
Once again, you can thank us.
For what? Good.
For educating you. Okay, we got to sign off.
Yeah. Bye.
Have a nice week, kids.
Bye.
Play nice with the other kids.